Hello, today's lesson is on adding and subtracting fractions. You know that I am allowing you to use a calculator, and it's very important that you learn how to manipulate your calculator. I'm also going to spend some time in this section reviewing with you how to add and subtract fractions by hand. So let's get started. I want to skip to number 3 first because this is the easiest one. Okay, in order to add or, let me go to my purple pen. In order to add or subtract fractions, okay, you have to have a common denominator, okay? So in other words, your denominator, that's the number on the bottom, has to be the same. Since these are both 5, we can add these. What you'll do is you'll add your tops, 43 plus 7, and your denominator stays the same, so that would be 5. 43 plus 7 is 50. And 50 divided by 5 is 10. So we're going to get 10 when we add those fractions together. Okay, number 4 is the exact same way. They already have a common denominator. Now let's back up and go to 2. This time we have 16 in the denominator of the first term and we have 8 in the denominator of the second. Those are not like terms. So what we have to do is we need to multiply this denominator by 2. And if we do the denominator, we have to do the numerator as well. Okay, so I'll rewrite my new fractions. 3 over 16 stays as it was. My new fraction here, 3 times 2 is 6 on the top. 8 times 2 is 16 on the bottom. Now I have a common denominator, which is 16. I add my tops, 3 plus 6 all over 16, which is 9 over 16. There's nothing that will reduce into 9 and 16, so that's my final answer. Okay, now number 1 is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to do it by hand, but to be perfectly honest, I'm going to mix handwork with the calculator because 24 and 28 are fairly large. They're not numbers that I'm super familiar with. So the easiest way to do it is if you get unlike denominators and nothing jumps out at you, like in the previous example, I knew that 8 times 2 was 16. So that one's pretty easy. But I'm not super familiar with 28 and 24. So the easiest thing to do here, this is my personal opinion, is you take the denominator on the left and multiply the right-hand side. Oh, sorry, that's my timer. By that denominator. So the top and the bottom are going to get multiplied by 24 on the right, and then you take the right-hand denominator and you multiply it on the left. So 28 and 28 top and bottom. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a smaller number. I'm saying 28 and 24 are not super familiar to me, so this trick will work all the time if you're trying to add fractions. Now here, rather than just straight put it in my calculator, I'm going to combine doing it by hand with the use of the calculator. So 28 times 11, okay, that's 308. So we have 308 on the top. In the denominator, 28 times 24, I don't know what that is, 672. On the right-hand side, we have 23 times 24, which is 552. And in the denominator, once again, we're going to get 672. Now I have a common denominator, so I can add my numerators. Okay, let's look at this again. We're going to add these two up. I'm going to use my calculator. Again, I'm combining doing it by hand with the use of a calculator. So 308 plus 552 is 860. Sorry, purple. 860, and my denominator remains the same, 672. Now, I'm going to use my calculator to reduce that. Again, it's very important that you familiarize yourself with your calculator, how to operate your calculator, how to use it for fractions and decimals. But I'm going to put it in my calculator, and I'm getting 1 and 47 over 1/68. Okay, that's a pretty awkward fraction there. So I think using the calculator in combination with doing it by hand was the best option for me. That's an awkward number right there. Okay. Oh, wait, I think I put that in the calculator wrong. Hold on, let me do that again. 860 divided by 672. Okay, that's correct. Let me see how the final answer is given to us on the answer key for number 1. Do they want a mixed number? Okay, so they reduced it. They gave it to us as an improper fraction. Okay, what was that, 215? Let's see. Oh my goodness, 168 plus 47. Okay, yes, this is the same as 215 over 168. So this is an improper fraction. Okay, this is a mixed number. Number 5 is super simple because you already have the same denominator. So you just add your types, add your numerators, keep your denominator the same. Let's move over here. All right, let's try number 6. Number 6 is a good example. You have 3 different denominators here. So we have 25, 20, and 3. Sorry. So I have to find a number that 25, 20, and 3 will divide into. I'm just going to start listing my multiples of 25. So we've got 25, 50, 75, 100, 125. Let's see if 125 works. 150. No. I'm drawing a blank, sorry. Okay. I cannot think of anything other than 300. Now, I'm not saying there's not something before that, but the smallest thing I can think of, my common denominator that I can think of is 300. Now, that's pretty big, so this is going to be a large number. So, okay, we have to say there's 25 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So this needs to be multiplied by 12, top and bottom. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. So this needs to be multiplied by 15, top and bottom. And 3 goes into 100, 3 goes into 300 100 times. So this will be multiplied by 100. So my new terms are, let's see, 12 times 18, which is 216 over 300, plus, I have no idea what 19 times 15 is, 285 over 300, and then the last one is 200 over 300. And at this point in time, for the sake of time, I'm going to move on because I want to get to some of the word problems. But you would add your numerators, okay? And then you're going to keep it over 300. We'll have to look at the answer key to see if they want it as an improper fraction or a mixed number. Typically, Hawks will accept either, or they will specify how they want their answer. We're getting to some subtraction here. I'll just go over one brief one. You operate subtraction and addition the same way. Since this is a common denominator, all we have to do is subtract our tops. So 12 minus 1 is 11, and you keep your denominator of 15. You would have to get a denominator for 9, 10, 11. Let's go over to the other page. You would have to get a common denominator for 12 as well. Now, let's look at number 13. Again, this class is called Quantitative Literacy Support. So we're talking about reading, math, and this is a great example. Your income is $2,100 a month, and you plan to budget half of your income for rent and half of your income for food. How much do you plan to spend on each of these 2 items? Okay, so we're going to spend half of our income, which is $2,100, on rent, and we're going to spend 3/20 of our income on food. Now let me reread my problem, make sure I've set it up correctly. If your income is $2,100 and you plan to budget half of your income for rent and 3/20 of your income for food, how much do you plan to spend each month on these 2 items? Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll calculate the part that goes to rent and food. So for, sorry, this is going to be $1,050 on rent, and this is going to be $315 on food. Now let's read the problem at the end. It says, how much do you plan to spend on each of these two items? Okay, rent is $1,050, food is $315. Let's look at the answer and see if they want us to add those. Number 13. Yes, okay. So they want the total that you're going to spend on these two. I don't think that's worded very well, but what they want us to do is add up 1,050 plus 315. Okay, so this is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 0 plus 3 is 3. $1,365. Let's look at number 14. Number 14 and 15 are very similar. You have an integer. Number 1 is an integer. It's not a fraction. Same thing down here with 4. It is an integer, not a fraction. The best thing to do here is to put this integer over 1. Both cases, I would put it over 1. And then we need to get a common denominator. So for the first one, the common denominator is going to be 18. So I need to multiply the numerator by 18, and I need to multiply the denominator by 18. In this one, you're going to multiply the numerator by 11 as well as the denominator, because your common denominator is going to be 11. I'll finish out the first one for you. So 18 times 1 is 18. 18 times 1 is another 18. Minus 17 over 18. To subtract, you just combine your numerators. So 18 minus 17, that gives us 1 over 18. And number 15 would be very similar. Okay, we just have a couple more minutes. Let's go to the last page. I know there's some word problems over here. Number 16 is just like 14 and 15. Let's look at 17. A 7/9 inch pipe is to be shortened by 3/8 of an inch. How much must be removed? So you've got a pipe that's 7/9 inch and you're going to shorten it to 3/8. How much must be removed? So you're starting with 7/9. Okay? You're going to end with 3/8. Okay? So 7/9 minus what number is 3/8? You're starting with 7/9. It is to be shortened to 3/8 of an inch. How much must be removed? Okay, this is a little more complicated. So we've got 7/9 minus some part, we don't know that part, so we're going to put an X, equals 3/8. So the question is, what has to be removed in order to end with 3/8? It is to be shortened to 3/8, not shortened by 3/8. That's a difficult explanation. Okay. I'm thinking of the best way to explain this. Okay, let me start back up. I didn't do a good job of explaining that. I had to go back and rethink it. Let's scratch this. Okay, so we're starting with 7/9, and we're going to remove or shorten, that means subtract, it to 3/8. Okay, I think I over explained this up here. Ignore that. And if you put this in your calculator, your common denominator is going to be 72. I'm going to go ahead and write the answer because I've got one more problem and I've only got 1 minute to explain it. The answer is 29 over 72 needs to be removed. Okay, really quick, the last one. I love this problem because it's a cooking problem and we all cook, and if we don't cook, we eat. A recipe calls for the following spices: 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/8 teaspoon of cumin. What is the total quantity of these three spices? So we need to add 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/8. Okay, we need to get a common denominator. I'm running out of time. Multiply this by 2, top and bottom. Multiply this by 2, top and bottom. Get your common denominator, add, and check your answers.